Good morning, everybody. Yep, here we are, and we're ready to take you through a pretty chilly day. Apparently, this is an even colder week than last week, if anyone actually cares about that stuff, because some people do, and some people are very worried about how cold it is. Let me just adjust this camera a little bit so I'm not off to the side. All right, so what's happening? We've got Simpiwe, and we've got Mbulelo, and you and me. I mean, you couldn't wish for this morning, right? That's a good starting combo to get your day off to the right start. Apparently, I don't know if this is true, but this is what someone sent me yesterday, and I even put it up on my Instagram. I was so horrified. Alert! Intense cold front ahead. And then I promise I'll stop talking about the weather, because they say boring people talk about the weather. Here's what they say for Johannesburg this week. They say Monday, -1 to 16. Tuesday, 2 degrees to 16 degrees. So today's supposedly not that bad. 3 to 7 on 3 to 17 rather Wednesday. Then Thursday, listen to this, -3 to 7 degrees. And Friday, -5 to 9 degrees. Those are the weather forecasts for the week. Isn't that exciting for Johannesburg?
Sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? You look so happy about that.
No, I'm not. I'm not a winter person. So that just means, I'm going to have my hot water bottle, be in bed. The joys of winter.
People swear by these hot water bottles. Hey, I mean, people love those things. My grandmother used to have one of those. She thought it was the best thing ever. It's like an invention God made.
Yes, you have like this warm thing by you for like a couple of hours. And it's a bit safer than an electric blanket. I do have that as well. But hey, trying to save electricity.
Those things are they're dangerous. Hey, people leave them on all night, and then that's very bad for you. Very bad.
Yeah. But you need something to keep you warm, and especially as a single person, you don't have another human heater next to you. So, exactly. You buy like electric blankets, water bottles,
I want to go straight on to something that made me so angry yesterday, and I have to discuss it with you too, because I wondered what you'd think of this. And by the way, I put up this thing on Instagram, and then I get messages from people about the weather. People saying, please, what do you know about the cold? That's not cold. Like, Jesus. What hell do you live in where it's colder than that all the time? Ugh. People from New Zealand, people from Canada, people from Norway, they tell me, please, what are you complaining about? I'm like, yes, but I don't choose to live there.
This is true.
Anyway, so I got angry yesterday. I was just going through social media, which I do, partly because I have to. It's part of what we do here, and we sort of have to know what's going on. But it's not my favorite thing to do, and I don't spend. I'll show you my screen time reports. I don't spend that much time on there. Anyway, I was going through all this stuff, and there's this girl that I know, and she's a sweet girl. There's nothing offensive or irritating about her. I promise you, she's not the kind of person who normally you'd think, oh, like I did suddenly yesterday. But it sort of reminded me of those throwback Thursdays and those remember when things that people put up on Instagram, where they basically just boasting about their holidays that they've had that you haven't. That's really all it is. Like, Instagram created that, or it came about as a thing, because people wanted to show off how great their lives were without showing off how great their lives were. They wanted to be more subtle than it is, but obviously it's just boasting. This one, she puts up this picture of herself looking extra hot, right? I mean, it's like 90% of the body is her ass and her back and everything. And she goes, oh, I really miss my long hair. Can I please get my long hair back already? Oh. But actually, we all know what it is, right? We all know what she's doing. She found a hot picture of herself, and she wants to use an excuse to put it up. Now, I mean, the response to that post is to just say, well, grow your fucking hair. Why do we have to be involved in this? Right?
Yeah, she is the definition of a thirst trap. Like, what? Like, you did that, girl. Shout out to you. She's no better than chicks that like put like a suggestive picture up on Instagram, and then they have a Bible verse, and then you're like,
Oh.
What's going on? I don't know. Like, are we praising the Lord or are we, drooling over you? Like, pick
But this is
one.
the thing, like, I just can't do it anymore. Like, maybe I'm a grumpy old bastard, and I'm happy to accept that that is the case because I am most of the time, especially during the week. Like, it bother me in the week. Over the weekend, maybe I'll be up for these games, but not Monday to Friday. And then I see this stuff, and I'm like, really? It's just so obvious. It's so transparent.
But is she a model? What does she do for a living, this person?
Well, she's very attractive. I mean, she's got a great body. She has got great hair, and she's got a nice, tight little ass. And she's very. There's nothing wrong. She's not. She's not that kind of person who you'd go, oh, not her. She's actually very sweet. But I saw this, and I'm like, really? Ugh. Anyway,
I mean,
mean,
but my only issue is when people put up that kind of stuff and
Yeah.
then they are shocked when there is negative and positive feedback. Like,
well,
if you're going to put yourself out there,
Yeah.
do me a favor. You know?
She is going to get the negative feedback too, and she must deal with it because
Yes.
that will happen. I mean, that's something you have to put up with. So, I mean, here, for example, Ntokozo says, do not discourage those people. That's the only reason he says that he's on Instagram. Those thirst traps are amazing. No one reads the caption nowadays. So,
Yeah.
okay, fine, fair enough.
Yeah. And what I'd hate for good-looking women to do is stop posting themselves, especially in lockdown. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think we should be encouraging that.
No,
Oh no, we're not saying that. Just be true to yourself in what you're actually posting. Don't be posting something sexy with a Bible verse. Like, you gotta pick one.
Yeah,
If you're
and then
gonna be
she'll go, "Oh, I didn't even mean it like that. Oh my word!"
Don't get me wrong. I don't mind if like people who really work hard on their bodies or just look amazing because they were blessed with God-given beauty. I mean, listen, I'm an aesthete as much as the next person. That's not the issue. The issue I have is that she puts it up and goes, "Oh, my long hair," but it's not her hair at all. That's not why she put up that picture. It's like it's
Yeah.
dishonest. I
It's
don't
the
like the
bunda.
dishonest. That's all.
I'm with you.
Anyway, I mean, there's people are going to complain, and I'm going to be one of them. That's how I am. Here's some shit you should care about. Okay, the Norwegian women's beach handball team is facing fines for wanting to wear shorts instead of bikini bottoms. The bottoms are not to cover more than 10 centimeter on either side, according to the International Handball Federation rulebook. For context, there is a picture, which I'll put up just now, of both Norwegian teams, the men's and the women's, and you'll see what I mean. I don't like this shorts thing. That's something we should care about, right? Why else watch the stupid volleyball?
Is it
Am I right?
volleyball or is it handball? Because those are
What's the difference?
no. Because there's the demographic that plays handball is very, very different, especially in ladies. I've watched both. It's very different, especially as somebody who's into aesthetics. It's
All right,
two different species.
I'll show you that picture. Let me just show you this. You'll get an idea of what I'm talking about, Willis.
What you talking about, Willis?
No, exactly. So I'll show you the shorts in one picture, and then I'll show you them in the bikini bottoms in the other one. There's no doubt, obviously, that a man made that rule, right? No doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. God bless that guy, whoever he is. It's extremely important. These things matter, everybody, all right? I don't want anyone poo-pooing this stuff like it's not important. It really is. Let me show you these pictures. It takes me a couple of seconds to get them from, I've just got to get them from the phone to the laptop, and, I first had to screenshot them. This was all on Instagram, so before you start saying, oh, what are you doing with all that stuff on your phone? It wasn't on my phone to start with, all right?
See, now that you're explaining it.
I just got it this morning. I'll show you now. Okay, so look at this. Anyway, I mean, this is a good rule. This is something we should care about, everybody. This is something we should be able to do something about. So I'll start off with the picture of the whole team lined up in their official Olympic certified outfits. All right, here it is. This is what they're meant to look like. You can hardly see it there, but the girls are in the little bikini bottoms, right? And the guys are wearing the shorts with the sort of the vests. The girls have got these little boob tubes and everything. And then here's a picture of the shorts, which you see cover a lot more. That's not as much fun. See what I mean?
Sure.
I do see what you mean.
It's important stuff, that. All right. While we're on social media, I saw Magic Johnson has a son, and he posted a picture of him and his wife and his son. They were in Miami together. Look at this. Now, he says, Cookie and I are so happy that our son
What?
EJ arrived. We are in the heart of the shopping district in Fort de Marmi. It might be in Italy. It might not be in Miami. Sorry. I read that last word and thought it was Miami. Now, the son is wearing, wow. How do we even start with that one? Simpiwe, any thoughts? While we're talking
I'm
about
st-
people?
Yo, okay. So what I can see is that it looks like a jumpsuit or a tracksuit, a matching tracksuit, but it's quite short because it is summertime with sandals. Yeah.
They go up to halfway up the calf at least.
Yes.
He's got that expression of girlfriend on his face, and
Like he's striking a pose. He has the one like thigh to the side as if he's like here for the gods of the poses. Yeah, that's what like it's he really looks like one of those honey, face beat and everything.
That's the
He
one.
looks like one of
Oh
those.
my
We're not.
God.
There's nothing wrong with that, and we've never ever been homophobic on this show. But that's Magic Johnson's kid, Magic Johnson, who of course was the famous basketball player, and he's become something of a political and a social and a sports icon since then. And his wife, who helped, he was the one who the first one who survived HIV/AIDS very famously, right?
Well, he said he recovered from it.
Recovered from it, whatever. Anyway,
No.
There's a cure.
As in, he was positive, and now he doesn't have. He's the first and only recorded case in the history of the Homo sapien species.
What I'm saying is,
There's a cure, guys. So that means there's a cure. You just don't have enough money to pay for it.
So that's Magic Johnson's son.
Wow.
So EJ Johnson, if you go to his official Instagram, I mean, he's wearing some pretty extraordinary stuff.
Wow.
EJ Johnson, go and have a look at that. You want to have a good start to your day. Louder and Prouder with Billy Porter, Zachary Quinto, EJ Johnson. So obviously they are, he's doing a lot for the LGBTQIA plus community. And I did have to go through all of it. It's very, very good and extremely gay, dresses like that all the time, says Pranola. So that is it. And someone, Dogozo again, who's full of beans this morning, says money is the cure to AIDS.
I'm with you.
Apparently, according to Mandia, he used to be on a show called The Rich Kids of Hollywood, EJ.
I imagine he is rich.
That sounds like a reality TV show. So
I must watch that because this EJ looks like he could demolish the closet door of any place, any closet. Magic Johnson's cure is lots and lots of money. Good news for Africa. They're all saved, says Corona's boring. Yeah. Anyway, I just thought that was an interesting thing to remark upon because I've never seen EJ Johnson before in my life. Had you?
No. I mean, his father is...
Yeah.
I mean, his father is one of the biggest superstars of all time. I would have... Yeah. And his father's an extremely prominent man. I would never, ever have guessed that EJ would be like that, But apparently...
How you say these things, because people immediately interpret that as being, you're so homophobic because you said like that.
No, well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being fabulous. I don't know if he's gay. I mean, you don't have to be gay to dress like that. He is fabulous.
Fabulous is the right word.
Yeah, he is fantabulous. But his father is like one of the sort of apex predators of our time. Like basketball beast, played with Michael Jordan, went toe to toe. I guess we shouldn't impose that on his kids. Who are we to say?
You never can. I mean, look at how great Tom Hanks is, but his son is a complete puss.
Yeah. That is the term. That is the good old Ched Bambakla talks.
That's how he talks.
Bambakla. Why is he putting on a patois accent? Dude, you are lily white, bro. Come on, dude. Tom, like, his dad isn't a mailman. Your dad's Tom Hanks, pal. We know who you are. Like, just play. Let's all stay in that lane,
Mbulelo is insufferably superior.
Yes.
This is a nice insult for you from Anthony. Anthony, are you sure
Yeah.
he's not a coconut? You see, there we go. Have you dealt with that before? You want to deal with it again?
Anthony, you've hurt my feelings. I'm not too sure how my day will carry on.
Oh,
And
no.
that's not a. Wait, what do the kids say now? Oh, my safe space. You're affecting my safe space, and
Right.
that's not right.
Correct.
So you are emotionally guilt tripping, whoever. Wait, who said that comment?
Anthony.
Anthony, because he just vocalized some feedback, as you would say.
Right.
I'm happy for Anthony to have his feelings.
Well, here's some feedback for me this morning. Gareth, you are intelligent and have a good knowledge of worldly affairs, but you're not always right. Well, thanks, Harold. I don't know how I'm going to make it through the day now, not knowing I'm right. That's really going to get in my way. For example, how am I going to drive the car to this appointment I have at 9 o'clock? Oh,
well, just don't turn right and right.
Yeah, that's probably how. That's very good advice. You see, Simpiwe, this is why we keep you on the show. Anyway. All right. Some other things that are going on that we need to talk about. Can we maybe, and I know by talking about this, I'm sort of ironically doing what I'm telling you not to. Can people my age please stop talking about the vaccine? I know that they've opened up registrations for people who are between 35 and 45 or 35 and 40 or whatever. Just stop it. Nobody cares. Like you guys were never under huge threat anyway. There are obviously a few people who died, but this is not interesting. And I don't care if you had your vaccine and don't post your picture. Nobody cares. We're all burnt out with compassion. I told you this before. No one is that interested in your journey. No one. And the fact that you post yourself getting a little injection that millions, if not billions of people by now have had is no big deal. It is not interesting. It does not mean you're part of some wave of people who's changing the world for the better. I'm just not interested. I could not be more bored than to hear about your corona story or your vaccine story. Please shut up about it. I've obviously kept in the reserve tank a little bit of sympathy and care for those people who've actually lost someone. But if you've just had coronavirus and you've survived, I know this hurts your feelings, Mbulelo, because you've been a survivor. You made a big deal about this. Don't come to me with that story. I don't care. I do not care if you're alive right now and you have COVID or had COVID. I do not care. Not interested. So people, you're nodding your head. You feel the same way, right?
Yeah, I'm a bit over it. There's been a bit too much of COVID talks, and I'm not there. Like, I've already made up my mind, so it's like I'm not gonna get the vaccine, but like if you do it, great. But I don't need to know how you feel and how it was unless you are on your deathbed. But yeah, I really am not here for it.
So just Mbulelo, just check my levels there, because a lot of people are saying my sound is much softer than yours and Simpiwe's. So I don't know how that works, because I adjusted it now, but it should be, there's like Sean and Charles and everybody saying your sound is crap. So I don't know what I'm doing. I've just adjusted it on this side and it seems fine. Fat Pig says fuck the vaxxers. Sure, Fat Pig, that's nice of you. Sure. All right. Very good. I don't even care if you want this or you don't want this. Don't make a thing of it, please.
Like the first thing people ask now when they meet each other is, "Oh, have you had COVID yet?" Like, excuse me,
no.
Like,
Nobody
why
cares.
does that matter? What do you get? Are you a scientist?
Well, it's an icebreaker. Clearly the times that we live in, it's a icebreaker, because then people get to share their stories and get to also be like, oh my gosh, you won't believe my symptoms. I had no taste, no smile. And then the other person would be like, oh my gosh, I was so fatigued. And then the other person it's an icebreaker.
You know what I start hearing?
Yeah. Yes.
The minute you start talking about that shit, I just tune out. Can't handle it. Please shut up. Shut up. Fine. What did you talk about before Corona? Probably
life.
No, the weather.
Those people used to talk about the weather, and they still do. They still Corona and the weather are their go-tos. Now listen, I understand that this is happening, right? I understand it is the number one social, economic, and political concern of any person who's paying attention to anything. but we can't keep talking about it. And the fact is, talking about it isn't going to give me any new knowledge because you are not an expert, neither am I. Frankly, the experts aren't even experts at this point because they don't know what's going on. Don't tell me about your vaccine. And then I turned on the TV last night and they've got this, Sally Burdett, who's like she's our version of Kay Burley in South Africa, right? She's on ENCA.
That's not fair. Kay Burley is
terrible.
No. Yeah, Sally's just Sally, been around for a long time.
All right. Well, Sally's okay. So maybe she's slightly better than Kay Burley, but she's our version of that. Anyway, she's on and she gets all excited. She's like, and now I'm going to hand over to Michael Marilia, who's that small man who does the thing with a big screen, right? Anyway, he's put this thing together because you could see he's in my generation, right? So he's put up this thing with like the A-Team and MacGyver and Lionel Richie music and shit from the 80s. And he's made this whole like compilation of 80s stuff to show that this generation are now going to get the vaccine. And he called it, let's just look this up because I actually wrote it down. It was so stupid. He called it from A-Team to V-Team. So A-Team meaning like this show that was on when we were kids. And the V-Team being the vaccination team. And he's saying, oh, this is great because that generation are leading the way in showing how the coronavirus and the vaccine can be beaten. And it was the most crap thing I've seen on TV for ages. Oh, it was so bad. So bad. Oh, it's so rubbish. Makes me want to throw up.
While we're doing the vaccine thing, why don't people just get the vaccine so we can get back to normal? Because don't make it about you. Don't worry, you're fine. Like you are fine. You're not going to grow a third arm.
How about we all just leave each other alone? How about we start to assume that people actually can be responsible for themselves? And if you don't assume that about other people, then all you have to do is protect yourself against them. Which, if you care about these things, get the vaccine for you. Stop worrying about everyone else. None of your business.
You've put me in a trap there because nothing about what I'm seeing with people's guts in the street tells me they can look after themselves. So I'm not happy to leave people to their own because they can't look after themselves.
Too bad for you. Too bad for you. You have no authority and no sovereignty over other people, Mbulelo. So
what? No community. No community. We mustn't raise standards by living in community.
You don't have the right to tell someone else what to put inside their body or not. You don't.
But that's how community works. That's almost like saying, I'm out now. We've decided murder is bad. That's a community standard.
Those people don't have to. They might as well carry on with their day. It's not going to affect you in any way. What are you talking about? The community.
Okay, then don't complain that we can't.
They have to wake up in the morning thinking about you.
No. Okay, fine. Those same people don't complain when we can't get back to normal because you can't control the fact that vaccine, even though it doesn't change anything really.
That's a threat. Either you do what I say or things will be horrible for you forever.
No. You have the choice is either you get the vaccine and we get back to normal, or don't get the vaccine and don't complain and we're going to have lockdowns with Cyril rolling it out for the next 2 years.
That sounds like a threat.
Well, I know that's the reality. I'm telling you what's going to happen. You don't have to like what I'm saying. I'm just telling you what's going to happen.
Don't you see that what you just said now does exactly the opposite of motivate people to go and get the vaccine?
But is that what's going to happen? Right? If we don't get the...
Let's also remember what happened yesterday in the UK. So it was Freedom Day in the UK. They actually had the cheek to call it that, right? Where people were allowed to actually do what they want instead of have the government give them permission. And Boris Johnson announces yesterday, we mentioned this in the news yesterday morning, that he's going back into self-quarantine. Now, this is a guy who has not only had the coronavirus, very famously had it right near the beginning, and we thought he was going to die because he's fat and untidy and probably smells a little bit. He also had the vaccine, 2 jabs of the vaccine, and was completely immunized against the vaccine. Now, I know that there is a small chance that you can still get the virus. That's why he's gone into isolation, because they're all terrified of that small chance. So what is he doing by saying, even though you've had it and you've got the vaccine, in other words, you've double checked, and any person in science will tell you that seems like a little bit over the top. If you've had it already, chances are you're already somewhat immune. You're not dead from it, right? Your body's learned to cope with it. Second thing is you've had the vaccine, so your body's had another chance to learn to cope with it, and perhaps another strain has learned to cope with that too. But now you're telling people All of that is for naught. Because even if you get the vaccine, you must still isolate. I did have a short interaction with my health secretary. Now I have to go into complete isolation for 2 more weeks. That's the way we've got to do things. And now I've got to get my vaccine passport for my 612th jab. So actually what you're saying is horseshit, because after you've had your vaccine, then they're going to say, well, you need to go for 2 more vaccines, or you need to go for this, or because they're always going to try and make sure that they get 100% of the people 100% safe, which is impossible. That's what we talked about yesterday. There's no such thing as safe. So what the hell? What are you talking about?
This is my point completely. You've just gone off. You've gone completely left. I've never said vaccines are going to make us safe. I've been very clear. Vaccines are not a cure. All I care about is open the bloody restaurants. And
yes, I agree with that.
If the only way these cretins are going to do that is the vaccine, let's all play the game. And if they don't, then let's take our guns, which gun-free SA won't take away from us, to the parliament, right? Isn't that the game?
I don't see the point. If the politicians are behaving like the vaccines don't make any difference, what's the point?
Yeah. Oh, so you're thinking even if all of us got vaccinated, they'll find another way to keep us in prison.
They'll find another reason. They're enjoying this too much because for them,
no, fair enough. Then that's where
make themselves important in our lives. So we've both ended up at the same point in the road now. Thank God. Took a while, right?
No, I still think you should get the vaccine. You haven't changed my mind on that. Yeah.
Simply we're sitting there going, oh, because we've ended up doing exactly what I said we shouldn't do.
I'm sipping on water, listening to a conversation.
So Daniel agrees with you. He says Mbulelo's right. We're being coerced into getting vaccines. Gareth, you're right. This is the start of much more to come in terms of international government. Yeah, well, this is it. Don't tell me what to do. Just leave me alone. I don't want Cyril or that crook Zweli Mkhize or Boris fucking Johnson or Joe Biden or Dr. Anthony Fauci telling me what to do. I'm perfectly healthy. I'm better off. I'm in better health than any of those fuckers I just mentioned now. Any of them. And I know exactly what I'm doing with my body. Thank you very much. I've had it for 40 years. Shut up. Stay out of my life. All of you. Get out, government. Ree! Autistic screeching. That's how it goes.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah. Right. So, and also just if you're in your 40s or in your late 30s and you're posting pictures of yourself getting vaccinated, you have just got nothing to say, have you? Nothing to say. So rather say nothing. Anyway, Errol says there will never be another movie star or singer that will be as popular as Elvis Presley was and still is. Oh, for God's sake, Errol, what kind of thing is that to say? I mean, Michael Jackson tried his backside off and Madonna tried, and she's still trying. And how rude of you, Errol, to not give them credit where it's due. I mean, look at poor old Ariana Grande. She's shaking her ass out there on the stage, working hard. And all you care about is Elvis Presley, you selfish man. Selfish man. What a terrible thing to say on a Tuesday morning. I can't believe you should be ashamed. Have you never heard of Whitney Houston or Diana Ross, you son of a bitch, Errol?
Errol, huh?
Please.
What about Miley the Wrecking Ball?
This is funny. Fat Pig says sheep. So,
yeah,
not sure. There's a lot of farm animals in that comment. Too many for me to handle. I don't know about you. It's a shame. I see that the dome in the north of Johannesburg, the northwest of Joburg, is closing down. The dome, that marvelous place.
It's closing down.
Yeah, they're shutting it down. Well, I mean, it's an event venue. And what events
they sold
had?
it.
No, I think it's shutting down. They're actually not. They didn't
sell it. Oh wow.
Ticket Pro Dome. Oh, and what are they going to do with it? What do you do with the dome now? You know, it's finished. Did you ever go there?
Of course.
Yeah.
Plenty of
I've
concerts.
seen quite a few concerts there. Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's also a great space for like expos and stuff. So shame. I'm actually heartbroken. Oh man, that was like, such a vibe. I mean, it was like one of the places that a lot of artists wanted to perform at because it could actually, host so many people. Yes. And now that's shutting and I don't know where else they're going to perform because they can't come to Carnival all the way to the East End. It's way too small for them.
went to
I
so
wouldn't go to the East Rand ever.
I wouldn't go to the East Rand
Ever.
I wouldn't go to the East Rand with your money in your car.
The East Rand has a vibe, okay? I don't understand why you're hating on the East Rand. It has a vibe.
I don't like the West Rand either, but you can mostly avoid the criminal gangs on the West Rand. Mostly on the West Rand, inbred people who tie their children to the fence. But in the West Rand, it's, you can navigate past them. It's larger properties, more burning stuff in their front yards than actually burning stuff on the street, like in the East Rand. Anyway, I mean, apparently it was sold by the Sasol Pension Fund, but it's still sad, right? Because if you're in the events business, like there was something about that place. There were so many concerts that I saw there, so many great performances. I'm going to be a little bit upset I hope they're not going to demolish it or anything. There'll be some use.
It would be
for
interesting if it gets turned into a church and then
Oh,
that's where people. I'm just saying it would be interesting.
Sure.
What kind of church? We've yet to find out, but it would be.
We know exactly what kind of church.
what's you know who I would go and see? What's my man's name?
Bushiri.
No, Bushiri. No. He's got some current travel problems and whatever. Not him. We've moved on.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it Joel Osteen? What's the dude's name? Joel, my guy Joel Austin. I would pay for a ticket to go and see that scamming son of a biscuit any day. I would love to go and see that.
He's gonna give you motivational talks.
Oh, perfect.
Before we go on to Joel Osteen, because I also want to beat up on him. I hate that guy more than you could possibly imagine. In fact, he is one of the few people in the world who I would really like to see covered by a landslide. From a particularly rocky mountain, not a sandy one, a mountain where the landslide will, as it destroys your house and wipes you off the face of the earth, it will hurt as well. That's how I want it to be for him, Joel Osteen. Those big teeth and that huge chin that looks like he's almost got gigantism. What's wrong with him? What's wrong with that man? Anyway, but we've got to move on. And the things that we're going to move on to are some of the headlines that we have in the news this morning. So the first headline that I want us to pay attention to is about our friend Duduzane Zuma. Are you ready? So remember he put out that video last week, the rocket scientist. I just want to point out to everybody who thought Duduzane Zuma was going to be the next president of the country. I'd like to just point out to you that this guy is such an amateur and he's such a hack at this. And he's so bad at this. He has not got an ounce of the talent, the political nose that his father has, right? Not a thing. And he says that last week when he told people to loot responsibly, what he meant was, people took him out of context, because when you say loot responsibly, he really meant something very different to what people thought he meant. In other words, you got it wrong, not he's a bad communicator.
So what did he mean?
Well, he says, first of all, I don't have a social media account. Yes, but you've got people who are spreading your shit around like fertilizer. And he says to Newsroom Africa that he disagreed with sentiments that he instigated the unrest. Oh, I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that the investigation is getting closer and closer to you. You might end up in jail after all. I wonder if that's part of it. So he says, that's the furthest thing from the truth. And if you look at my history and what I stand for, that is contrary to my belief and my value system. Let's try and remind ourselves what Duduzane Zuma stands for. Enriching himself to the tune of a couple of 100 million, maybe even some billion, living mostly in Dubai because you're afraid of being arrested, driving over some poor person. Remember he did that? He drove over a person, or he hit a person with his car or whatever. He ends up being found not guilty of, culpable homicide or murder, but he still hit a person with his car.
Drunk. Drunk. We must remember he was drunk, by the way.
As I recall, drunk. Yeah. Good point. And he was in a Porsche, and this person had just got out of a taxi. So you see how much he cares for the community. And he says, if you play the entire clip, you'll understand what I was trying to say. He said he made an 11-minute and half-second video clip. And he said it was recorded 3 or 4 days into the eruption of the unrest. There's obviously a lot about me and my participation that is happening in the country right now. A lot of finger pointing in my direction. Then why did you put out the video, douchebag? If it had nothing to do with you, why are you putting out videos in the middle of all of this?
Why did you make it? Why did you make it at all?
He should be arrested, and his social media should be shut down completely. Whatever social media he has. Sorry.
I'm just still stuck on what did he mean? Like, if you didn't say loot responsibly, what?
How else do you interpret that, Simpiwe? How else do you make sense of loot responsibly? Yeah, you have a go at that. Let's see what you can come up with.
I'm trying to like. So what was he using? Reverse psychology? No, I'm just trying to understand. Like, was he like, no, guys, like, what I'm actually saying is, don't loot. Don't do this. But because people do what they're not supposed to do, loot responsibly. Excuse me, sir. Like, what did you say? What did in your mind? What did you mean? Because clearly, what came out of your mouth is not the same thing.
He obviously isn't as intelligent as people said he was. You can sound intelligent, but you might be really stupid. I think that's the case for him. He's quite thick.
You know what he sounds like? He sounds like one of those people who, if he got caught cheating, he wouldn't be sorry that he cheated. He would be sorry that he got caught. You know what I mean? Those people that aren't. He's just scrambling.
Very bright.
Back to Dubai, man. Just go and enjoy your money, our money that you stole.
Go and enjoy our money in Dubai and get the hell out of this country. You're doing nothing to help. And also, he's blown his load now. He has nothing else to give, right? This was his moment to shine, and there's nothing like after this. Who's going to go? We definitely need some more of him because he showed such leadership and strength during that crisis.
No, we have a country to rebuild. We have a country to
like when you hit your head really hard on the Nkandla wall as you walked out of the homestead the other day. I mean, did you bump your head on the overhanging beam? What happened to you, idiot? Anyway, so
you know what he should do? He should drain his sisters and just free Zuma.
Jacob Zuma, our father, Jacob Zuma.
Yeah, they should just come together.
People used to say that that Jacob Zuma was stupid. He's not. His children are, but he's not stupid. He's really not. Yeah. His kids are much dumber than him. That's a hell of a thing to say because his kids had more education than he did. See, sometimes education can't make a person who's just genuinely not very gifted any better. That's the sad reality. Like some people are uneducable. They can't actually get better if you expose them to the software because the hardware is not good. If you've got a really old, slow computer that goes and has a very, very old processor in the middle of it, motherboard, you can put all the best programs in the world through that computer. It's going to operate very badly. Education is the software. The hardware is damaged. Sorry, it's not going to work. Anyway, a lot of people are talking about me and the vaccine, which is boring, but I did see this from Andre. He's making a prediction. He says Gareth will get vaccinated before October. I've said it before. There's no controversy here. I've been completely consistent every step of the way. If I need to be vaccinated to travel, I will be. But I feel like I had it already last year, and I probably don't need the vaccine. So let it go to you, Andre, with you, because you look like you need the vaccine. It seems to me like you're crying out for it. And people like you could die if you get coronavirus. I won't. So good luck. I'll give you my dose, all right, until I'm ready. And until they tell me that I need it in order to travel. I see Boris Johnson, speaking of him, bozo, he says last night in a press release, because he's now isolated, so he's in number 10, and he's been pinged by the early warning system, and he's sitting in his office with his hair all a mess, which is exactly how it is when he leaves his office. So Boris in isolation looks as disheveled as Boris not in isolation. And he goes, what we're going to do is everyone over the age of 18, if you want to go to nightclubs, you shall have to produce your vaccination card. You have to show that you've been vaccinated fully, otherwise you won't be allowed into the nightclub. And I thought, uh-oh. Do you know how many people under the age of 18 have been getting into nightclubs, Boris, you moron? You don't think people can get a fake vaccination card if they can get a fake ID? What's wrong with you?
Haven't they started with those? Like, that's a business opportunity waiting to happen.
I guarantee you in this country, in South Africa, you probably already buy fake vaccine cards from just about anyone. There's a bunch of guys somewhere in Hillbrow who are busy printing these things left, right, and center. So this is the problem with people who believe in governments, people who really think governments are the solution and that they can solve all the problems. And the bigger the government and the more money they have, the more of their problems, your problems, they can solve. They can't, though, because the bigger and more unwieldy they get, the harder it is for them to actually do the things that matter. The only government that matters is the local government, and those people never have money. Anyway, let's see what happens. It's very exciting. So Boris Johnson, he reckons he can make kids get the vaccine cards if they want to go to nightclubs. All right, there's some other news, but it's not as exciting as the Duduzane Zuma story, so I thought we'd go straight to that. But Jacob Zuma, while we're talking about the Zuma family, is entitled to compassionate leave so that he can attend his brother Michael's funeral.
Mm.
He appeared yesterday, very briefly, in front of a judge because he's still trying every avenue. With our money, again, I have to point out, with our money, he's using every avenue he can to get out of jail. I don't mind it. Like, obviously, you're entitled to do that with your own money, but not with ours. Okay?
Are regular people allowed to leave their prison sentence for a funeral? Just out of interest.
Yes,
I don't know.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. So it's not
okay.
No.
So what happens? The police escort you to the funeral and take you back, or how does it normally work?
You go in.
Wow.
In cuffs. Yeah. You can stand there in cuffs. It's all very dignified.
Yeah. No ignominy at all.
No.
Wow.
All right. So let's turn our attention to something a little bit more urgent and pressing. And when we talk about the African continent, it's always urgent and pressing. We've got to talk about Mozambique. We've got to talk a little bit about Tunisia. And we're also going to find out about Ethiopia, because all of these are big stories. And JJ Cornish is our man on the ground in Africanalysis, a bi-monthly feature, which is brought to you by the Johannesburg Business School. And we look at what's going on the African continent. He joins us from Pretoria. JJ Cornish, how are you? JJ? Allô? Bonjour. JJ? No. Okay. Well, we'll see if we can get him just
Okay,
now.
we'll get a hold of him.
I set that up so beautifully, and then it all just fell flat. That's like when you say, "Here she
there
comes." There he is. There he is, Monsieur Cornish. Bonjour. Now we can't hear him.
Oh,
So we can see him now. We're making steady progress, but we can see him. We just can't hear him. Simpiwe, do you want to just log off and see if you can sort that out? Don't worry.
yeah.
Mbulelo and I will continue to entertain. Let's do a little dance and, some whatever we have to do to keep people
I don't know.
entertained in the meantime.
I'm not really
Here's a point made by Stinkmeaner ZA. I love these names. Loot responsibly is probably the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Yes. No, it's it is one of the Zuma 2021. What do you think that guy's going to do? He has to move to Dubai, because I mean, if we see without getting on a soapbox, is chief, we have a country to rebuild. Yeah, we have a yeah. Well, I mean, we have a country to rebuild. Those of us, especially those of us who are choosing to stay here, we have a country to rebuild. Just get out the way, man. Like you with your race baiting and get out the way, because us black, Indian, white South Africans, chief, we have a country to try and rebuild. We have about 50 years before some of us die. We'd like to maybe just get on with that.
Well, I mean, you even made the point in the notes last night while I was just looking through what you wanted to talk about on the show this morning. Maybe this is an appropriate place to bring it in. Is that you say we've got 5 months of this year. Let's do something with it. We don't want to get to the end of 2021 and say, oh, that was a write-off of a year. I think that's such a good point. We got like just under half the year still ahead of us. Let's put that to use. Let's do something with it.
Yes. And I mean, obviously, those in KZN, again, I'm not going to do the we are together thing. They're going through real stuff. All I'm saying is the rest of us as South Africans who are in the middle class and upwards, who are like you, Gareth, you're a business owner. Let's use the rest of this year to relay the foundation, right? We still have 5 months, guys, to go and rebuild this year and forget these clowns, and let's rebuild. And I hope we can, man.
I hope you're right. Let's try again. JJ Cornish, good morning. No, for some reason we're just not getting his microphone. I mean, I can see him. He looks resplendent this morning.
He does.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. Anyway,
okay,
we'll try again. So Carl jokingly says we must start a crowdfunding campaign to fix JJ's internet. It's like this. Yeah, my God. Then Andre says, watch the Zuma family peg one by one so that Mr. Showerkop can get out every day. So they'll actually Like they'll volunteer to die so that he can get out and spend some time
Yeah.
on the outside. I could see that happening.
And by the way, black funerals take about 3 weeks to plan because, and I'm just going to speak from closer. Yeah, it's a whole week of planning. Then they're grating carrots for about 3 weeks. I tell you the secret: if you ever get invited to a black funeral, you don't want to be there on Friday because you're going to be forced to grate carrots. Gareth, don't ever go on a Friday.
Really, it's great carrots.
They grate through the night. Through the night, carrots. The carrots never stop being grated. Just through the night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then only we go to the funeral.
I love that. That's awesome. All right. Well, while we're waiting for JJ, just one other quick thing I want to throw in here. You remember last week I spoke about the scam with the puppies, where I was going to get my parents puppies and I paid for them online, and then it turned out to be a big scam. Well, I was contacted by a listener of ours, someone called Karine, and Karine sounds like she is a no-nonsense, hardcore human being. And Karine is a private investigator, and she's going to help me track this guy down. Oh yeah, no, she's the real deal. She was a female bodyguard. Yeah, she's a female bodyguard in her previous life, and she's a private investigator. She has contacts all over the place. She's going to track this guy down via the bank accounts, his phone numbers, the email addresses, everything. She's going to find him, and she's going to go and get us to knock on his door. I'm going to be so excited to do that. Because you know what? Frankly, Karine is the type of person who I want on my team permanently. You know, if someone says something on social media that's just like really stupid and dangerous, not the kind of dumb stuff that you usually get on social media, but if someone says something like, you know, Gareth Cliff is stealing people's money, then I can find out who that person is, even if they've got an anonymous account, and go to their door. I spoke to Dineo Ranaka a while ago about this, and she and I were ready to fund a social media investigation team, which would go and find anonymous people on the internet who were throwing around dirt and actually have them charged. Awesome. Do you know how valuable that is? Because ordinary people get this too, right? Your ex goes online and she mouths off about you, and there's no recourse for that. Or someone who had a problem with you 3 years ago suddenly comes out of the woodwork and says, oh, 3 years ago, this person shortchanged me by 20 Rand and they're a cheapskate. And then they ruin your reputation online. We should be able to find those people and take action against them, because you can't do it on social media. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. It would be, oh my goodness, I would pay all of your money, Gareth, and someone else's. Obviously, I wouldn't spend all of my own money. I'm constantly, we are parsimonious, yeah.
But imagine, like Dineo was saying, the best part of this is you make a reality TV show out of it. So what you do is you film, you go to that person's house. If someone's been saying, Dineo is such a slut, I saw her with this guy and this guy and this guy, but he's living in his parents' basement or whatever. You go to the house because you find out where he lives. You get an investigator and you go to the house and you film the moment that you open the door and there's Dineo and she goes, hi, I think you were saying some things about me. And you watch this pathetic person wither away in front of you. That would be good.
Yes.
Anyway,
let's
try. Hello, JJ Cornish.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Perfectly. That's marvelous. You have no idea how good that feels. So, JJ, first of all, everybody's saying that we need to come to your house and redo your internet for you because obviously...
I say to you what you say to the government. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. I've been in this house for 20 years. It's pretty cool. The last time I've been listening to you for 40 minutes, and I wanted in a short sentence to sum up what you were saying about Jacob Zuma's children, the uneducatable. Well, a simple line on that is, you can't polish a turd.
Spot on. You know what?
There's nothing you could do.
You just did in a 30-second clip what I took 20 minutes to say. So you see, JJ, this is why we need you on the show every week. You're to the point, and you know what you're talking about. So let's get to the things that you want to talk about for this morning. There's a lot happening on the continent. This is brought to you by the Johannesburg Business School, and it's called Africanalysis. JJ Cornish is here to share with us his insights into, in this case, Mozambique. Let's just talk about Mozambique for a second, because we've been so obsessed with our own affairs here in South Africa for the last while, and justifiably so. But right across the border, we know that there's a huge degree of instability. And there are
There is
lots and
indeed.
lots of Mozambicans who are in a very, very sad situation, especially up in the north. I mean, essentially, there are terrorists who are busy making it ungovernable there. What's the latest story from Mozambique, and what's the latest situation report from there?
Well, we had the SADC troika, on politics, security, and they said we should send, or they agreed to send a stabilization force from SADC.
Yeah.
Now, the pledges were made, but in fact, what they call the troop agreement was not signed in time. The status of forces agreement wasn't signed in time for the troops to get there by the 15th. In fact, the Rwandans arrived, and they're not members of SADC, and that terribly much unsettled the South Africans and other members of SADC. What is going to happen is the South Africans will lead this operation, and they're going to go and look, and if the security situation is adequate, they might not send a full brigade, and that's the situation. But now we have Nosifiwe Mapisa Ngakula, who, can you believe what she says? Well, not if you believe our president. This wasn't an insurrection. But she's saying, this is the problem. We should be there, but we're not because we haven't signed the force agreement. The thing is, of course, our troops are now busy with Operation Prosper, 25,000 of them. When, for every boot on the ground you put somewhere else, you need 3 or 4 back home. And we just don't have that sort of number. So it's very sad.
What you're telling me is that these are bureaucratic bunglings. The people of Mozambique are no better off, despite all the promises and goodwill in the world, because of bad bureaucracy, decision making, and processes that are not followed properly. This is the kind of thing that, people are dying because politicians aren't doing what they promised.
Starting with the Mozambican politicians, Felipe Nyusi, he wasn't terribly happy about getting anybody in. Nobody is happy about inviting other troops into your country. But here he is. He's now having training from the European Union, and the Rwandans are there, 1,000 of them to help. But South Africa has always said, we can't go in alone. This is too big a job for us. But we have to go in as part of a regional force.
Right.
And once this is agreed, these South Africans are still not there. Now, does this mean that Operation Prosper is going to slow that factor down? How is that going to affect it? This is bad news, I'm sad to say, for the people of Cabo Delgado, because the group who call themselves ISIS are still operating there, and the international efforts to get them out haven't worked, and that's very, very sad.
So, JJ, what's happening in Tunisia? Because that's a place we haven't spoken about since the Arab Spring, with 1 or 2 exceptions here and there for migrants who are trying to cross the Mediterranean to get to greener pastures in Europe. But Tunisia generally is not the place that comes up regularly in our discussions about Africa, right?
What an interesting little country, sandwiched between Libya and Algeria, rough neighbors, and of course a country that plays the game. It really does punch above its weight. Tunisians, you say to them, you're Arab? Yep, we're Arab. You're African? Yep, we're African. And well, we're also North African, as it happens, and we're just practically just a little bit of sea between us. We're just about Europeans. So in all the international games they play, I've got a lot of time for the Tunisians. Now, they are making real inroads into fighting the jihadis. And, of course, there were the attacks at the museum in Tunis, in the capital, and then at the beach resort where there were dozens of foreigners killed, Brits particularly. Mm-hmm. Tunisia relies absolutely on tourism revenue, and it was closed off as a tourist destination. Well, it's no longer on the list of countries, on the blacklist of countries from the financial task force, internationally task force established by the G7, because it's managed to tighten control over the porous borders that it has.
Yep.
It's degraded the ability of the cells affiliated to Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb and ISIS, and it's dismantling these terrorist cells. So it's done a lot of work there. Unfortunately, it's not doing terribly well on COVID, and it's one of the countries, along with South Africa, Namibia, Uganda, Zambia, accounting for 83% of the COVID cases in Africa. And, you know, of course, the Delta strain making particular inroads there. What they've done in Tunisia is draft the military in on vaccination duty. And they're getting help from China, France, Turkey, Italy, United Arab Emirates, and Algeria. But it does have the highest per capita rate of deaths from COVID in Africa. It's got a much smaller population. So that's why that occurs. But it's good at yin and yang, I'm afraid, in Tunisia.
Yeah, I mean, COVID notwithstanding, it sounds like they've got their head screwed on right. And frankly, even though you say they claim to be all of those things, they can factually say that they are African, North African, Arab. They're also partly European. I mean, there are probably a few Tunisians in Europe who would agree with that. So, I mean, all in all, it's an interesting place to pay attention to, and I'm glad that we got to mention them this morning. What about our friends in Ethiopia and that grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam that you've been telling us about for weeks now? What's going on there? Because it's nearing completion.
I always look up the dam because I know you like it, and you do rightly so, because it is going to be the biggest story in Africa for some time to come. The second filling of that reservoir behind what has already been built is nearly complete, says Ethiopia.
Right.
Woo, woo. Yeah, we're just about to start generating electric power. Well, downstream, the riparian countries, Sudan and Egypt, go into a deep sulk on this one because the water, they worry about their security, and they say that it will impact on their dams and water stations. And certainly there was an angry outburst from Sudan yesterday about this. You know, you're boasting about this, but it's going to affect us badly. Interestingly, the United Nations Security Council has been brought in. Now, Ethiopia has always said, you didn't talk to us about this while you were the colonial power, Britain. Suddenly, everybody wants to talk to us about the Nile, which we've always had, and we've always had a right to. Yeah. So, you know, take that, suck it up. The thing that they brought in the United Nations Security Council, who don't want to get involved in a water dispute. They're about peace and security, and they don't want to get involved, but they were finally drafted in, and they said to you, the African Union, you're the guys. You should be mediating in this. Well, of course, we have been. African Union has, and as president of the African Union, Cyril Ramaphosa, our president, tried to mediate at one point, but the Egyptians and well, not so much the Sudanese, but certainly the Egyptians said, no. You are pro-Ethiopia. Well, you know, I think feelings run very high at this time, so you don't have to do much to be seen as pro one side or the other in this. But the point is, it remains a very, very controversial issue because there are other countries along the Nile, who want to build dams. So this is going to make Ethiopia the largest producer of hydroelectric power on the continent, and it delights it. And Abiy Ahmed has serious other problems to deal with, not to mention Tigray and others. Yeah. He's just had this landslide election victory, so he's a little bit buoyed at the moment. But the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, is his sort of success story, and he's not going to give up on that. And there's nothing anybody can do, certainly not the United Nations. You know, what are they going to, in terms of, the Security Council, the only group that can take affirmative action. What affirmative action can you take against building a dam? Break it down?
You used the insider term GERD, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Is that what we're allowed to call it if we know what's going on thanks to you? So we can say GERD and people will think we know everything?
Yes.
It's not. It is. I would like to do that, yeah. So you can say Chev and Bry, meaning Chevrolet and Bry Flace. And that's it, yeah.
Now we can say good with impunity. We can be ready to have people go, excuse me, I don't mean to sound ignorant, but what is the good? And we can go, oh, you know, you need to listen to JJ.
Then you say, do you not listen to Jean-Jacques Cornish, for God's sakes? Yeah. Well, that's.
All right,
I
Jake.
mean, are you one of those turds that we can't polish?
Thank you so much, sir. It's always good to see you. Au revoir. We'll see you in a couple of days.
Looking forward to it.
There's JJ Cornish, African
He's
Analysis,
awesome.
coming to you by the Johannesburg Business School. And you can join us every 2 weeks or so, where we check in with JJ and see what's going on the continent. The good.
Oh well, I mean, yeah. If you haven't heard, you know.
Good and turd. We've learned two really important things from JJ this week.
Yeah.
Don't say it's always serious.
One
right.
can be one can't be polished, and the other can't be mediated. That's how you tell the difference between the good and the
exactly
turd.
right. Spot on. All right, when we come back, we'll find out whether people can swim on the coast of KZN yet. There's a lot of really new and valuable information coming through on that. And we'll also speak to Alex Schmidt, who is this guy is a fantastic human being. He started a business, which is an online prescription and delivery service for sexual health. And I think that you're going to be interested to hear what he and the doctors who work with them are all about. That's coming up this morning, just after 7.
This week on Auto Central.
So if I don't own a license, can I still buy a car?
Well, firstly, Fazlin, you don't own a license. You have the luxury of having one. So, you can't, I don't think you can own a license. You can own a car. But the short answer is you don't need a driver's license to buy and register a car. Although if you finance it, I'm pretty sure that the bank is going to, frown on it. Catch Auto Central, SA's #1 motoring podcast, every Monday at 9 a.m.
Just because it's about technology, connecting your business to the rest of the world doesn't mean you need to send rockets to space and use complicated solutions. Want to simplicate things? Well, join Jaco Voigt, who is the CEO of Catalytic, on the Unbundled podcast. With skin in the game and a keen focus on educating and assisting you and your business, Jaco decodes all the aspects of connectivity, security, and cloud solutions. Unbundled is brought to you by Catalytic and is available on cliffcentral.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yo, I put it like wow, this that sound. These dogs don't work hard like me, I hope they know by now.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's your promo. I haven't seen that before. Mbulelo's got a little promo going there for the MKT show, which is the podcast version of Cliff Central Sport. And how did yesterday's show go? Looked pretty good.
All good. The aesthetic is making the full transition. So you can subscribe Cliff Central Sport on YouTube. Otherwise, the MKT show wherever you get your podcasts. And very good. And we had we're doing some work in the background, which it's been an awesome time. I know there are people going through stuff out there, but we're grinding, and it's awesome, man. It's awesome to get the feedback as well. We've gotten some really great feedback from people in KZN that have said this show and our show, kind of, if they can just escape for 2 hours. So it's
That's
been awesome.
lovely.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I think, as you said earlier, let's use the rest of this year properly. And you're certainly doing that. CliffCentral.com on a Tuesday morning. It's already the 20th of July. Things are moving fast. And we do have another 5 months left of 2021. And you're going to have to find a way to make it useful for you, because otherwise you're going to look back when December eventually comes around and you're going to go, what did I do with this year? And you're going to be disappointed and angry about the fact that you didn't get enough done, and you'll blame everything except yourself. But really, you have the power to change that, as you do every other day. So people are wondering whether you can swim in the sea off Umhlanga yet, because there was a chemical plant that burnt down and a whole lot of chemicals went into the water, and there were videos going around on social media. Well, this guy has put out a video to say he went for a swim and he says he's fine. Take a look at this quick.
Hey guys, just an environmental update on Mshloti. I was out swimming in Mshloti today and the water seemed fine. It smells great. I mean, everything seemed up and up. I mean, I was really just there along this area. And I mean, I don't feel any different, really. I mean, everything seems fine. So, yeah, our beaches should be opened.
So he's holding up like a claw. It's diseased claw. You got to love people with their sense of humor, man. That's the one thing that you can absolutely depend on, is a South African's ability to laugh at themselves. All right, let's go into the territory of controversy. And please feel free to send your comments in as they occur to you, because I know this is probably going to be one of those things that's going to be clipped out of the show, and before you know it, we're going to be called all kinds of terrible things. Certainly, I'm okay with that. But here is a picture of the first ever Sports Illustrated trans cover model. This is Lena Bloom, who has just become Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. Now, the swimsuit issue, for those of you who don't know, this was a major thing, certainly when I was in my late teens, early 20s. The swimsuit issue of Sports Illustrated was the apex of both feminine beauty and the male idea of feminine beauty. And they kind of coalesced in what was one of the most high-profile magazines and magazine editions. People would look forward to this all year. It was a big, big deal. It was really important. And Swimwear 2021, Sports Illustrated Swimwear Edition, they've got Lena Bloom, who is a trans cover model, on the front page of that. So I will not be buying that magazine. And I don't know about you, but that's just me. There may be other people who do want to buy it. And then there's a Calvin Klein billboard of a morbidly obese woman that's up on a building in New York. And she says, I speak my truth in #MyCalvins, Calvin Klein. This is part of the fat acceptance movement, or the body positivity movement, or whatever you want to call it. And you got these two women. The one is the trans Sports Illustrated Swimwear Edition cover model, and the other one is on a billboard in New York City. And I'm up to here with politically correct messaging. I'm sick and tired of people forcing their nonsense because they want political acceptance, or they want political attention, or they want social kudos, or whatever it is, on things that I used to love that I can't love anymore. It's all good and well that the trans community is standing up for themselves, and I'm very happy about that, because for too long trans people have been ignored and or vilified, and in some places even victimized. I get that. It's not even interesting to say that anymore, because everybody knows that's the case, right? It's like people who, are in their 20s and bring up apartheid. It's like, yeah, you didn't really live through that, but your parents possibly did, so maybe you do know something about it. The fact is, everybody's, unless they've been completely ignorant and never picked up a history book, they should know about these things. The trans community makes up less than 1% of the total world population. They're getting a huge amount of attention now, which is fine. But I think, at some point we have to look at their demographic representation and say, well, isn't this a little too much because it's over the top now, and I think people are sick of being force-fed propaganda? Or am I just looking for trouble? I didn't choose to talk about this morning because it particularly affects me either which way. I don't really care if Sports Illustrated swimwear cover girl is now a trans model. I also don't really care about a billboard that I'm not in the city of some really, really unhealthy, morbidly obese underwear woman. But the fact is, all of this is part of like this insidious culture that's bubbling underneath us at the moment. And if you don't join in and join hands and say how great it is, you're a bad person, according to some people. I'm sick of being called a bad person. I'm not really worried about this ad. I'm not really worried about this magazine cover. But I won't be called a bad person, not by people I don't know, or by people who expect me to walk in lockstep with them on every issue they care about, or else be branded as some kind of horrible person. I don't like that, and I don't think that that's the way you make friends. What this is going to do ultimately is it's going to make people resentful rather than supportive of both the trans movement and of body positivity stroke fat acceptance. It's not going to help the cause. You know, you don't bring people to your side by pointing a gun at them. And that's essentially what I think is socially happening to people.
But why would you be a bad person in this case for saying what you're saying now, or what
Yes,
is?
because you're not like wholeheartedly and with enthusiasm supporting the idea. You know, I'm not going on social media and clapping and clicking, going, it's so great that there's this obese woman in a building, or that there's a trans model on the cover of swimwear edition of Sports Illustrated. Unless you are actively supporting, enthusiastically behind these things, you're a bad person. That's what happens. Just watch the space and see.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've always said this: political correctness is the art of semantics. It never lets you. It never lets you deal with the real issues. Right? Is that like the lady with the Calvin Klein thing? It's like, no, objectively, you shouldn't want to look like that. Not because of the aesthetic, because there's a health implication. Like, and you know, there's, by the way, people that keep saying thyroid, excuse me, we've dealt with thyroid now. We deal with it like the common cold. We have medicine for that. So do me a favor with that one. There is a functionally bad health implication to that. And me saying that doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. I'm just telling you what rudimentary science in the 1960s said.
I completely agree with you, Mbulelo. We have no argument, you and I didn't think we would have. But I do want to tell people who are massively behind these two particular movements that I've just indicated now, the fat acceptance stroke body positivity group and the ones who are in the trans activists group. Those two groups need to be aware of the fact that when you label people as being your enemies because they don't enthusiastically support everything you do, what you ultimately do is you push them over the line in the opposite direction. And there's going to be a reaction to all of this. That's always inevitable, right? You know, if you push everybody to the left, they want to go to the right. If you push everybody to the right, they want to go to the left. That's just the way it works. And I am concerned that by everybody in the media, by most of the social media noise, by these very, very loud, very, very much minority voices in society that are proffering us this new material, that they don't seem to understand or have any appreciation for the fact that most people don't really deal with these issues on a daily basis. It's not important enough to most people, but when you push it in their faces every day and you tell them, you must love this, you must be a huge supporter of this, it actually pushes people the opposite way. You know, I'm like, it didn't bother me that these two things were happening until it became clear to me that unless I supported them, I must be willing to be called things. I must be willing to be told I'm not good. I must be willing to accept that there are people out there who will say that that I am transphobic or that I am fat phobic. Those are the two words that will be used. And I'm not actually interested in that conversation. So what it's going to do is push me away from those two communities and make me even less likely to be kind and considerate and accepting, which is what I am right now. But I'm not saying that I could stay there if you are prepared to go to war with me. And I'm also not prepared to say that the average person in the world who genuinely doesn't really encounter the body positivity or the trans movement in any real way, because they're small proportions of the activist community online. Most people just get on with their lives. But if you make a big deal of it and then you force people to have the decidedly acceptable opinion about this, they're going to push the other way. I don't think it's good for these two groups at all.
You know, in the sciences, they always teach you when you're a stupid first year to start thinking in what we call logical conclusions, to consider what we call logical conclusions once you've read the evidence. And I've actually experienced this as somebody who dates across color lines, right? Is where does it stop in terms of, like, eventually, you know, where it's gotten to is that I have people, and in my case, black women, because sometimes I'll be with a white girl or whatever, is eventually people are telling you who to find attractive. Like now it's like, do you not find black women attractive? I'm using my own life. I don't know what people's lives are.
What's wrong with you that this woman isn't attractive to you? How dare you? You're obviously bigoted. That's what you are, because you don't find her attractive with that huge slab of fat between the top and the bottom of her underwear. You have to find that attractive. You have to. You are.
Or what if I don't? What if I?
The power of the Jesus compels you. You have to.
Humana.
I have to be thrilled that there's a trans model on the cover of what used to be my favorite kind of edition of Sports Illustrated as a kid, for obvious reasons, right?
But for everybody who seeks inclusivity, and I include myself as a black man, and right now we're having interesting conversations in global society, right? Is that when you want to be a part of it, what you need to understand is that your identity politic cannot become the most interesting thing about you.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And we all head that direction. And I think, listen, there's nothing wrong with being trans, man. It just cannot be. I cannot be number one forced to talk about it all the time, and it can't be the most interesting thing about you. I'm sorry, like that. Like, okay, you're trans, great. Now, are you a moral person? Are you useful to society? Let's move on, please, pal. I don't have to be forced to like you. What's beneath this stuff? Let's talk about that. And because we're always dealing with the "I'm trans, love me," we never get to, hey, are you a good person? You. Whatever your identity politic is, we're always obsessed with sticking to the surface.
Can I also point out something else about this Calvin Klein billboard? I speak my truth. Can we please stop with this my truth bullshit? Because I've had enough of this. Truth is not a subjective thing. Truth is objective. That's the whole point of truth. Opinion is a subjective thing. So Oprah Winfrey, who started all this nonsense, and you heard her using it during the Meghan and Harry interview, and you hear lots of people who are on social media saying, it's my truth, it's my lived experience. So what? It's not true. The sun isn't going to... There are parts of the universe that will never hear your truth. There are possibly parts of the world that will never hear your truth. There are probably even people in your own family who give a shit about your truth. The fact is, those are all subjective things. And matters like gravity and electromagnetism and solar radiation are as unconcerned, and those are true things. Those are things which are provable under laboratory conditions. They don't care a stuff about your truth. Your truth is only important to you. That you foist it on other people through billboards or other things is damaging to your cause, not helpful. When are they going to realize this? I'm sorry, it's just enough already. And I'm not going to be forced to find the woman on that billboard attractive, no matter how many of those billboards they put up. They could literally surround me with them every single day, and it's not going to change my mind. Don't find it. I do not like obesity. I do not like them, Sam. I am.
Enough already, because, by the way, people have already done the thinking for us, for goodness sake. So some German guy called Immanuel Kant gave us a fantastic term. It's called the categorical imperative. We already, like you said, gravity, these things they don't need us to be true. It is objectively bad to be obese. Thank you. Now let's move on. Sorry.
There's another thing about this that irritates me, and it's a good point being made by Good Stuff here. This ad campaign is by large corporations who are trying to sell their shit by virtue signaling. Now, that is absolutely true too. I am going to lay half the blame for this at the feet of the models and the activists and the people on social media, but the other half of the blame has to be placed squarely at the foot of a corporation like Calvin Klein in this case, or Sports Illustrated in the other case. Because what they're really doing is they're trying to appear like they are the most thoughtful, they are the most open-minded, they're the most accepting, tolerant, diverse, inclusive brand in the world. And they are none of those things because they're not actually interested in those communities in the least. I don't know how many trans people Sports Illustrated sells magazines to usually, but it's even tinier than their percentage of the overall population. And I don't know how many women are walking around in Calvin Klein that is a size XXXXXXL, like that woman in the billboard, but I guarantee you they had to make hers especially for her because they don't normally make underwear for people of that size, right? So who are they actually doing this for? They're doing it for themselves. They're not doing it for those communities. Can we get over this, please?
Yeah. And also, you know, what it's led to is people vilify good-looking people now. I mean, tragically, I've never been a part of the good-looking community, but I don't know if you've seen that. It's gotten to a point where, yeah, no, but it's gotten to a point where people are already going, I don't know if you've ever heard this. It's accepted now to just go, oh, look at her. She's a bitch. I know it. Look at her. You can see she's a bitch. Because
people have been doing that for ages.
Like, get over yourself.
That's called jealousy. That's been around for years.
Okay.
I'm also extremely jealous of good-looking people. I always go to the mirror. I've told you this. I go to the mirror every morning and I go, "Oh, is that the best you got?" I mean, I feel I should look the whole lot, but that's what I got. So I'm not going to nail those people because then it's going to go right back at me. But please, can we stop this stuff because it's propaganda, and you know we have the internet and we have the available information all around us about what we need to know about the world. We don't need to be exposed to this crap like we're in the 1930s in Nazi Germany. And they say, you will like this. This is what you will have. Yeah. If you don't like this, we will put more of it in your way until you eventually will succumb to our propaganda. You can't do this to people. Like, it's just not acceptable. I can't believe that this sort of propaganda is coming from the left, the opposite side of the political spectrum to the side Hitler came from. But they're using that kind of propagandist tactic to sell us shit that we're just not interested in. Come on, everybody. Can we please stop this stuff? It's childish. It's unnecessary. And it's a waste of our time.
Yeah. I can't see why you would be called a bad person for what you've just said, because you are not saying there's anything wrong with being trans. That's not the issue you're addressing, but people always focus on that. But we know this, both extremities are dangerous, left and right, and we're seeing Hollywood spewing out now the worst of the left, and it's just, that's where we are. We're going to stay there. Well,
I mean, if I have to see one more attempt at trying to, make women action heroes, I think I'm going to throw up in my hand. I'm just over it. That's not the way it works in the real world. They're not action heroes. Nobody believes it. Those movies never sell. It's a joke, and nobody's buying it. And the same goes for this stuff. I mean, I don't know how many women in the obese community are suddenly going out and buying Calvin Klein, or how many trans people are suddenly subscribing to Sports Illustrated, which frankly I'm surprised is even still a hard copy magazine. In a world of digital, I'm surprised they even managed to sell a single edition, but there it is. I wonder if there are lots and lots of sales that have gone up in the trans community. Again, community being a very loose word here. We've got to stop using community to describe everything. There isn't a fat community. They don't have meetings. They don't get together, talk about what they're going to eat next. It's not a community. It's not a community. Sorry. And the same goes for the trans community. There could be all kinds of trans people all over the world. They're not in a community. They don't get together, all of them in San Francisco at once, although you could probably fit them in one hall, and then decide what their next move is going to be. They don't. These are individuals all over the world. And I'm sick of people calling them communities. You know what communities are? Those people who stood together in KZN last week. Those are communities. Courtney says, marketing techniques to play with psychological tactics tempt a new way of being. It's interesting. There's a lot going on in that sentence, Courtney. But I think you are hinting at something quite interesting. Randy says, obesity is a big comorbidity for COVID. Do I have to support that? No.
If you want to be a good person. Sorry, what's that person's name?
But again, that's from Randy.
Yes. Randy, you do have to if you want to be a bad person or a good person. If you don't support it, what you're saying... Yes, you are a horrible person, Randy, and we have to, And,
You know,
that's a great point.
the other thing
Randy.
you don't see, I'm pleased that came up, because none of these public health officials, especially here in South Africa, have gone out there and actually said on a public stage, you know what the problem is? If you're fat, you have X percentage more chance of dying from COVID, which was a fact, right? If you were enormously fat, you probably would have been taken out more easily by COVID. Not always, because everybody's going to bring up that one occasion where their very fat friend survived. But in general terms, if you're enormously fat, COVID's gonna get you. COVID is gonna get you. COVID is gonna get you. And it did in many cases. But nobody was saying this. Now, I think that that's a fairly important health announcement to make. But did you hear Willem Kiesie saying it? No, he was too busy looting the COVID funds. Did you hear Dr. Anthony Fauci saying anything about fat people? No, he was too busy getting airtime on CNN. Did you hear any of these people talking about fatness? Did you hear fat Donald Trump, who was actually overweight himself, if not obese, saying anything about fat people? No. So all these people have let the fat community down. And I want to point out that while I may have a problem with a billboard, at least I have cared enough to tell you to deal with your weight if you're worried about COVID. At least I've been considerate enough to do that. So call me what you want, but there's where I'm doing a public service. All right, fatties. Good. Let's move on. We've got things to do, people to see, places to go, and we've got an important agenda item this morning, something that I've been looking forward to doing for a long, long time. There's a new brand on the block. It's called Contro. And the man who is the founder of Contro is actually somebody I've known for a long time, Alex Schmidt. He is also, apart from being a very, very smart man in the business world, he's also a qualified English solicitor. And he decided, this law stuff isn't for me. I would much rather be in the sexual health business. And while we were talking about health just a minute ago with respect to COVID, sexual health is a big area of trepidation for many people. Obviously, most people don't want to talk about sexual health. It's embarrassing. You know, you don't want to get on the internet and type in your own personal details and then find out that someone else discovers you have this or that sexual problem. You maybe don't want to tell your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your I don't know, maybe you have 3 lovers at the same time. You don't want to tell them what's going on because people are genuinely very embarrassed about sexual health. Even if there's perfect evidence out there to show that you are maybe 1 in every 3 people who suffers from a certain condition or wants help in a certain way, people are just nervous to talk about this stuff. So I think it's really excellent that Alex has started a business that will make it easier for people to get birth control, erectile dysfunction treatment, all kinds of other stuff. Hey, Alex, how are you?
Hi, guys. Morning. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
What a pleasure. It's good to see you, dude. And I'm really impressed with what you guys have started. Contro, you were busy putting it all together over a period of a year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah, a year and a half, 2 years. To be honest, started part-time while I was doing the law thing back in London. And I was meant to come back in March 2020. Obviously, COVID hit. I was stuck over in London for a while. We got back here in October. We sat down. We kind of made everything happen that we needed to, and we finally launched in June 2021. And to be honest, it's been a journey, but it's been hell of a fun, and we've really, really enjoyed the process.
So, I mean, I gave a little spiel in the intro about sexual health and how people are mostly embarrassed by this. It's not the kind of thing that you want to go to a pharmacy or a doctor to deal with. And what you guys are going to do is make that a lot easier for people and make it a lot more, a lot less embarrassing and a lot more private. And at the same time, they can find info. You've got experts that are going to join us every now and then to tell us about all of these various conditions and situations, and people can ask questions. It seems to me like it's getting a private consultation without having to leave your home. Is that more or less what it is?
Yeah, that's absolutely what it is. But that's just sort of the first part about it. So really just to explain how it works, how Contro works is you basically log on, you sign up, you then fill out, you request the sort of treatment you want. So that's either birth control or erectile dysfunction. We'll go with birth control for now. You then fill out a dedicated health assessment form, which takes about 5 minutes. After that, you then check out and you book a consultation with your doctor at a time that suits you. that can be that takes about 5 minutes as well. And then after that, if you have a successful consultation, your prescription is sent to our partner pharmacy, who delivers it to you within 2 days. After that, we automatically renew your script and deliver your medication every 28 days. So, I think there's a discrete element to the service, which obviously you talked about, and it's, you don't have to go and see your doctor, you don't have to walk into the pharmacy, but that also comes with the convenience of not having to do those things as well. Having to drive to the doctor, book a doctor's appointment, go to the farm. It's a nightmare for people to get what is just chronic medication that people use every day. So, not only are we convenient, we're discreet, but also we're affordable, because our doctor's consultations are, I think we're paying 150 Rand a month plus your medication cost. And right now we've actually got a special on where if you sign up before the end of July, you only pay 50 Rand.
That's phenomenal. Okay, so I see the benefits here immediately. Just tell me, are there only those two products at the moment? Are you offering just the birth control and the ED stuff? Is that the only two areas you're in, or are you looking to expand that?
So that's where we started. We sort of found those were the biggest markets and the biggest needs and wants in the country, although not very well talked about, definitely used quite a lot. So in terms of the birth control service, we offer over 28 brands. And in terms of the ED service, we offer over 10 brands, both event-based and chronic. And really, we kind of understand that not every medication fits all bodies. So we looked at it and said, all right, the doctor has got to make the decision based on what medication is best for the client, and as well as not their body, but also their financial means. So those are the really key factors. So it doesn't matter if you are new to birth control or you're currently on it, we'll find a solution for you in that sense. Same with ED. But in terms of the other products we're looking to go into, sorry, Gareth, we're going to be going to hair loss, and we're also looking at going to HIV treatment, PrEP, and potentially adding ancillary products such as your condoms, your lubes, your tampons, your pads that can go with those sort of chronic medication orders you use monthly.
Sign Mbulelo and I up for the tampons, right?
Yes.
Looking for a good supplier for years now. That's
especially at this time of the month. And it's good that I don't see you as often, Gareth, because it was starting to sink.
So, Alex, this is all very sensible, and it seems to me that it's bizarre actually that there hasn't been someone to fill this gap in the market already. How did the idea occur to you? Now, I'm talking just more about the business than anything else, and who's on your team?
So the idea is actually a bit of a funny story. The idea came from one of my ex-girlfriends. When I was actually studying in the UK at the time, I came back and we were obviously living together. She came into the door complaining what a nightmare it was to get a pill, how expensive it was. And I sort of just looked at her and said, well, just order it online. Surely there's an easy way. And her answer kind of made the light bulb go off. And this was about 5-6 years ago. And over that time, I sort of kept my finger on the pulse to see, well, is anyone doing this overseas? Is anyone doing this locally? And a few international companies popped up overseas, but no one did it in South Africa. And I kind of sat there thinking, you know what? I got to take the risk. Let's do it. Let's help some people and start a business.
So, I mean, that's it. There's probably a huge market for people who want birth control, because we know that you'd have to go otherwise, stand in the queue, get it at the pharmacy. It's a pain. During COVID, no one wants to go to the pharmacy unless they absolutely have to, right? And for ED, do we know how big that market is? How many men suffer from erectile dysfunction in South Africa or in the world? And then we can narrow it.
Well, I mean, to be honest, the stats are not really there. As said, most people don't talk about it, right? So they just don't say it. I mean,
their wives just look like this.
That's exactly right. But the stats are, I mean, here's a crazy stat for you. 40% of men under 40 will suffer from erectile dysfunction.
40% of men under 40?
Under 40 will suffer from erectile dysfunction, which is a crazy stat to think about. A lot of it is mental, to be honest. But it could also be physical, and that's something our doctors will have to assess on the spot when they have a chat to you over the consultation. But in terms of South Africa, I mean, the sizable market we're seeing is probably about 1.8 to 2 million people, realistically. Wow. In terms of who can access our sort of products. And in terms of the other problem, well, not problem, but the other issue so that a lot of South Africans face is diabetes. And 50% of men who have diabetes will end up suffering from erectile dysfunction over their life.
All right, so let's talk about how it actually works now. So if I'm listening to you, you guys are up and running. People can start ordering for me right now. So if somebody's listening right now and they go, okay, it's time for me to start getting my birth control through Contro, or I want to start getting erectile dysfunction medication from you guys, they can go to your website, I suppose, is the first port of call.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just jump onto contro.co.za. And then right there you can sign up, and then you request the treatment of your choice. Once you sort of select that, you'll be given a health assessment, and you'll fill that out. It takes about 5 minutes. You'll book your consultation with your doctor. That's also about 5 to 10 minutes once you have it. If successful, you'll get a prescription sent straight up on a pharmacy, and it'll be delivered to your house every month for free.
That's fantastic. All right. Birth control and erectile dysfunction. We'll tick those two off the list. For Mbulelo and I, that's 3/4 of our problems. Just quickly want to get to, I just want to go to some comments here, because our audience, they take no prisoners, you know, and they don't mess around. So Rebellious Ruth says, do you sell she-wees? Those are those things that allow women to pee standing up, or to pee in the bush. You might want to put that on the list of products. And then Bev says, are you addressing the STD market too?
So two markets we're definitely looking at. She-wees will have to add to the ancillary products. We haven't, to be honest, I haven't looked into them yet. We're focusing more on the chronic medication side. But if there's a request, we'll make it happen. And sorry, what was the other one? Was it STD market?
STD market, yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of the STD market, we are actually going to be bringing in STD testing kits.
Good.
So that'll be good, and that'll be nice and discreet for people to order online, get to their house.
Yeah.
We actually hope to bring that in within the next 6 months, and once that's done, we're kind of looking at sort of chronic herpes treatment, which I know can flare up and down. So it's all the stuff that it's important, but we laugh, but it's all the stuff people don't want to talk about. It's all the sort of awkward conversations. And the point is, you know, we take the awkwardness out of it and make it super discreet and convenient to get.
Alex, can you endorse any of these products of yours yourself? Have you been on the birth control, been on the ED medicine?
I haven't been on the birth control, but all the exes have, and I'm still not a parent, so that's a positive. I'm not a dad.
Not incident. Okay, good.
Exactly. So that's all good. But the hair loss stuff, I can definitely endorse. It's hanging on. It's still there. So you know, we're gonna be launching that in the next 3 months. And yeah, look, I can be honest, it definitely works. My dad's bald. I'm not, so I'll take that as a win.
All right. Yeah, it sounds good, man. A lot of guys are worried about that. And of course, they say that, you know, if you go bald, it's because you're producing a lot of testosterone, so you're more manly. But of course, no guy wants to be bald if he wants to have hair. And it's not like you have a choice. So that's good. Okay. So Ruth wants to know, is there a pill men can take for birth control? They are working on that, right? They have been, and there are some products available. Are you guys going to think about putting those in your range?
Definitely. I mean, to be honest, I would take it myself. I think I'm probably one of the few guys that would, but I would definitely take it myself. And I think right now, I think there's nothing that's been sort of FDA approved and that's on the market. I read something the other day that there's now a gel that you can use, and you sort of rub it on your shoulders every day, and that somehow has an effect. Look, we haven't, to be honest, we haven't really looked into it. But once it becomes sort of publicly and widely available, we'll sell that gel.
Okay, I like this. So lots of people who are very interested. Clearly, a lot of our listeners have STDs because they like that idea of your home STD kit. I mean, there's Gen X who's talking about it. Bev. Sean says, I would like to help. So there are lots of people with questions here. But you guys will also have, your doctors are, these are real professionals. Some of them are the best in their field. They're people who you've been recruiting for weeks and months. To get on your team. So when we ask for these medicines to be prescribed for us, you're not just going to get them. You need to check for contraindications. These are medical professionals who will make sure that you fill in the forms right. They'll ask you a couple of questions. You don't just get it straight away, right?
No, absolutely. You've got to go through the normal process that you would generally, but it's just really in a digital fashion, which makes it more convenient and discreet. So it's really, you have to tick all the boxes to ensure you can get the medication. And to be honest, it's not a guarantee, but for the current medications that we're offering you to get, you can. I mean, most people do pass the sort of, I guess, tests, because a lot of the medications are, well, birth control and erectile dysfunctions are more wants. You know, I want to be protected from sort of pregnancy and erectile dysfunctions, I want to treat a problem. So when we go into more of the HIV stuff and potentially PrEP, etc., there's a few more tests that have to be done before we can sort of allow the doctor to prescribe.
It's basically a medical consultation anyway.
It is. It's exactly
And
what
you
it is.
get
Yeah,
to ask- you get to ask questions. So if I go onto your site now and I want to get some ED medication, then there's going to be a qualified person who can address my concerns and answer my questions before I place an order, right?
absolutely. It's exactly how it works.
Okay, Good Stuff says, buying condoms online would be much less awkward. Please get onto that ASAP. I always think that the cashier at the shop will go, hey, look, this guy fucks, and then I'll die of shame.
Definitely something we're adding, and we'll definitely be bringing it on the next few months. Condoms for sure. And to be honest, I think the same goes for lube. I think every time I've ever bought lube, everything's God, what a freak.
Oh, good for you. Yeah, good for you.
Yeah,
Good
for
for
sure.
you.
All right, now this sounds terrific. So if you want to know more, go to contro.co.za. That's CONTRO, and we'll be checking in with Alex and with his team of really, really interesting people about various questions that you may have, various comments that you may want to make. And we'll speak to the experts. We'll speak to some of the doctors. We'll talk a little bit about ED. We'll speak a little bit about birth control, because there are lots of questions coming in now that neither Alex nor Mbulelo nor I are qualified to comment on. But there are loads and loads of people who you do have at your disposal and on your team who will be able to dispense some knowledge, and then you can dispense the products afterwards. But go and check out contro.co.za today. And they're already offering that special that Alex just mentioned. Just tell us again what it is.
So if you sign up and book a consultation before the end of July, your first month is only 50 Rand.
Amazing. All right, go and try it out. What do you got to lose? Especially if you're already buying this stuff now and you're sick of going to the chemist and getting looks. All right, there we go. I love it. Alex, well done. This is a terrific idea. And I'm really pleased that you're doing this. And probably millions of people that you'll be helping all over South Africa. So terrific stuff. There's Alex Schmidt, and that is Contro. You want to go and find out more about them? Head to their website. Nice to see you, dude. All right. Well, there we go, Mbulelo. All of our problems solved in one swift 10-minute segment.
Yeah, gee, you won't believe it. Alex is solving a huge problem of mine, other than obviously the erectile dysfunction and
which you've been very open about.
Yeah, and the labor pains, but it's because South African sort of service people, and it's good and bad, are very chatty. Is whenever I buy condoms, it's like a whole thing now. Now she's talking to the next person like, woo, someone's getting, and it's not malicious, but it's like, no. I don't need this. So shout out to Alex, dude. That's just, what a great man. And also, by the way, we always negative about ourselves as South Africans. What a great South African. Came home, saw business. He's identified. He's going to solve 1 million people's problems.
Stayed in London. Could have been a lawyer.
Yes.
And I know Alex. He's a smart guy, so he could easily have done very, very well as a solicitor in London. But he decided, no, I'm going to do this instead. There's more of an opportunity here, and there are people in this country who need this stuff. So let's do it. Good for him.
And I celebrate him as a fellow South African.
Don't lie. It's all because you're getting the ED medication.
Well, yes. I'm going to go from floppy to stiffy disk soon. So that's great.
Do you remember we used to have those discs for a computer? There used to be those things. I forgot completely about floppy disks and stiffy disks. My God, it's a long time ago, man. Yeah. That's a hell of a thing to think about. The computer, you actually had to put the thing in and then click that thing over.
Oh,
they would, and they always had like a 50% chance of working.
Yeah, no, it was a nightmare. And then we went to the stiffy, and then we went to something called a CD as well.
Yeah. Here's something interesting from Dogozo. He says KZN service people are extra chatty. Buying condoms and lube at clicks is always an adventure.
And Dogozo knows what I'm saying. And because it becomes a thing now, right? As when you get there, especially if you obviously it gets colloquial if it's in Mnanges Xhosa or Pedi, and that now it's a thing, and people are laughing. I just think I just want to get out of here,
Yeah. Well, Tracy says a great way to bypass the nosy receptionist at the doctor's office. You have an itch where red face spared and problem gets treated. Great initiative. Yeah, I love it. And obviously, they're going to start with these 2 products, but they'll add more as they go. It's very, very clever. All right. A few things I've also got to get to before we wrap it up for this morning. First of all, can we just keep some perspective? I think it's really important when there's so much disinformation and misinformation out there, and the two are actually different things, by the way. We can get into the definitions in a second. But I did see last night that there are 67,000 people dead from coronavirus since March last year in South Africa. 67,000. So that works out to about 139 people a day on average through the whole period that we've been through. So only 139 people a day have died since coronavirus started in South Africa. I think TB kills something like 140 people a day on average in South Africa anyway. So we've got to keep some perspective on these things. I just think it's interesting to contrast the numbers. And this came out from Stats SA yesterday, which was also interesting. The population of South Africa was estimated to be 60.14 million mid-2021, an increase of about 604,281 people since mid-year 2020. So in the same period that we've lost some 67,000 people to coronavirus, we have gained about 600,000 or 700,000 people, because that's only exactly a year. The coronavirus time period is a little bit longer that I gave you. So we're up 604,281 according to Stats SA, and we're down 68,000, which is, call it, for argument's sake, a tenth of that. We've gained 90% in terms of people living in South Africa. If you were an alien and you were looking just at the numbers and you weren't emotional about this, you'd say, South Africa's booming, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Just making it
say, open the restaurants, open the freaking. Yeah, I just want to go eat. Yeah, I want to go listen to the Yentas talking. But honestly, come on, guys.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway,
no, I'm with you. I'm totally with you, dude. Here are the damages that are estimated from KZN's looting and riots last week. According to this, there's some very interesting things. 50 billion rand impact on the national GDP. The retailer stores that have been impacted and damaged, 1,199 different stores were damaged and impacted by those riots and looting procedures in Gauteng and in KZN. And apparently PEP stores got hit the hardest. PEP stores, 489 PEP stores were hit during all of this. That's a lot of PEP. Huh?
Wow. Yeah. They need a pep talk.
Next biggest one was, it looks like Spar. Am I right? Spar, then
correct.
Only, Mbulelo, for you can relax. Only 11 Woolworths were hit. Because
we spent all of our resources where I live protecting our Woolworths. So you'll be glad to know it wasn't in my community. And God is good.
Yeah. I'm very, very pleased to hear that. But obviously, these damages and the cost of all of this is going to continue to plague us for some time going forward. So we thought it would be worth just putting up that little infographic that was put out by Sapua.
You know what ties nicely into what we were talking about earlier is, when you put it this clear and it's cold, the numbers are cold, right? Is now it's not interesting that you're a woman, man, gay, straight, trans. That is a disaster. Yeah. What we are seeing in those numbers is a disaster.
Old or exactly. Young. Yeah. It's completely
a disaster.
This is bad for everyone in South Africa, regardless of what group you consider yourself a part of. And here's the scariest part in the middle here. 150,000 jobs in KZN are at risk. 50,000 informal traders have been impacted negatively by this, and 40,000 businesses were affected. They reckon the impact on KZN's GDP alone is 20 billion rand, which is just absolutely unacceptable. Unacceptable. It's totally bizarre. Stock loss, in other words, looting, cost 1.5 billion rand in just Durban. 1,400 ATMs were damaged. So that's 300 bank and post office outlets that have been vandalized. 1,400 ATMs. That's a frightening number too. I didn't realize that there were that many that had been hit. Obviously, people after cash, right? That's what it is.
Yeah. And this is what happens when you don't take clear, concise action early. When you're dithering in Hyde Park, he knows who he is, dithering in Hyde Park. This is what happens. This is you know what? Here's the real pandemic. If you wanted to take numbers into it, this is a pandemic. This is oh my God. Those numbers are scary.
Well, here's something interesting you might want to take a look at is we've put it up on Gareth's guests on cliffcentral.com. You'll find the interview I did with a man called Greg Ellis. He's a famous Hollywood actor. He's been in a number of different shows. He's also been on stage and on the small screen. He's been the voiceover artist for video games. You'll know Greg. He was in Pirates of the Caribbean with Johnny Depp. He starred alongside Leo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet in Titanic. So he's by no means some small fry dude. And he has a hell of a story about custody, about his kids being taken away from him, about being a guy who in the American legal system just did not get any happiness, joy, satisfaction, or even attention for trying to be an involved father. You know, here in South Africa, we talk about how many fathers are just deadbeat dads who just couldn't care less about their kids. Here's a guy who wanted to play a role in his kid's life, and the legal system just completely cut him out. He's a famous guy. He didn't need to tell the story, but he felt by telling it, he might be helping so many other men who didn't have the resources or the exposure that he has. He's written a book about it, which is really interesting too. So take a listen to our interview with Greg Ellis. It's available as a podcast or as a video. You can go and find it on Gareth's guests, on the podcast apps, or on our YouTube channel. And I'd like to hear what you think. We're going to start a new series for this year, with the last 5 months of this year. We'll be talking to interesting people, and every week you'll get a brand new episode. I just yesterday recorded an interview with a guy called Ian Golden, who's just brought out a book called Rescue. He definitely comes from the opposite side of the political spectrum to many of the guests that we've had on the show before. And he has some interesting takes on what the world could look like after the pandemic and how we should make it better. So if you want to hear from Ian Golden, who's a professor at Oxford, he's going to be our next guest for next week. And you'll get to hear him and Greg Ellis, who's available right now on Gareth's guests. So go and take a listen to that. Eleutheria says, oh my gosh, that interview with Greg hit me hard. It's very sad. Yeah, it got quite emotional at the end, which was unexpected for me as well. So thank you, Eleutheria. Some good stuff in that interview. Here's a question. This question comes from Vania. I have a question for the team regarding the trans models and South Africa's first trans finalist in Miss SA. Trans could be seen as transformation, and if these models are participating in female categories, should they be fully transformed, i.e. have had the snip, or should they be allowed to tuck? An honest and open discussion is needed about this. Kind regards, Vania. What do you think of that? That's a whole kettle of fish I'm not prepared to jump into yet. I haven't even thought about it until your email. So what do you, anything you want to add, or you want to save it for next time?
Next time. I've never given it much thought.
While we're on emails, this came through this morning from Mrs. Cooper in inverted commas. I think our problems are solved, Mbulelo. I am Mrs. Cooper from Australia. I lived in South Africa and I'm currently residing in London. I'm a widow to the late Dr. Andrew Cooper. I'm 77 years old and I'm presently suffering from leukemia. She talks about a health condition. Then she says this. After the doctor's medical pronouncement that I had only a few months to live, I decided to divide my wealth and contribute to your country in Africa. So she basically wants to send me, and I think it's real, Mbulelo. I have no reason to disbelieve this. $600,000 US.
It's not enough. So if I were you, reject it. It's not enough. If she wants to help solve Africa's problems, add at least 4 zeros.
Imagine what we could do with that money from Mrs. Cooper.
So I'm such a good person. I need more because
she has a Gmail account, which I'm never suspicious of. So I'm definitely excited about that. And you know, since I was caught on that puppy scam the other day, I'm ready to go for this. All she wants is my bank details. And she says she'll process the application through a family attorney, and all she needs is my account details, and she'd be happy to help. So I mean, I don't see any reason why not, huh? What do you think?
You know what I think? I think after you suffered the trauma of the puppy scandal, you've done the work. It sounds like you've done the work. And now you're ready to put yourself out there again. And that speaks to you, Gareth. It's not even about the money at this stage. Take it and run.
We've had such a busy agenda this morning, but there's one last thing I want to throw in here. Soon you will be able to stay young forever. This is great news. Although the pharmaceutical industry is constantly evolving, New therapeutic approaches are being developed everywhere. One aspect has not changed: the use of small synthetic molecules, which account for 90% of the therapeutics on the pharmaceutical market. Some of the top-selling drugs are small molecule drugs. So what you need to know about that is that they have a low molecular weight. They have some definite advantages as therapeutics. They can be administered orally, can pass through cell membranes. Once they're inside the cells, they can be designed to engage biological targets like proteins, etc. Now, what they say is, although there are many of these drugs have been with us for years, the rapid advancement of biopharmaceutical research and technology is opening up new avenues for inventive and ingenious approaches to developing anti-aging medication. Metro Biotech is a company, and this is one of the companies in this article, that talks about inducing mitochondrial biogenesis, which will basically keep the mitochondria in the cells healthy for longer. And if you can keep the mitochondria healthier for longer, then the cells don't die, because what provides all the energy in the cell? The mitochondria. So these guys reckon they can put the right drugs in to a pill that will help keep your mitochondria going for longer. In other words, prevent cell death at the normal sort of frame and rate of cell death. And they'll be able to extend it. Doesn't that sound like a good plan?
Yeah, I want to look like Dr. Hanan until I'm 80. You know, he's got like that porcelain skin.
No, he looks very healthy. He's exactly. Don't want to look like me. I mean, I want to go back. I want to age backwards. I want to go like Benjamin Button. So if they say to me, take one of these pills, I'll take 3.
Okay.
Then I'll be younger. I'll be younger tomorrow than I was today. Makes sense.
This is why we can't have nice things. It's people like you, you know?
Exactly. Gen X wants to know, are we going to have an interview with Chris Wyatt? Yes, we are. I was actually, Dari was talking to him just yesterday, so we're going to speak to him. He's a retired U.S. colonel in the military, and he's going to speak to us about South Africa and about his time in the military, and we'll speak to him about a whole lot of other things too. And then this is cool. Courtney McConnell says, give it to gift of the givers.
Yes.
The money that we're going to get.
The scam money, yeah.
Yeah, it's not scam.
Oh,
it's real. Mbulelo.
Sorry,
Please.
I'm in a bad place in my life right now. I'm just skeptical of everybody. I've just come out of a bad breakup.
There we go. All right. Very good.
But I'm doing the work.
You're doing the work. That's all that matters, everybody. Just tell everyone else you're doing the work and it'll all be fine. All right. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early at 6 o'clock. Have an excellent day. Cheers.